We talked about British common law, and that's also where the idea of impeachment comes from. It was introduced, the Magna Carta, which was the start of this thing, was 1215. That's a long time ago. And then in 1367, also again in England, they introduced the idea of impeachment, whereby the people had a right to say to the sovereign, this is not going to stand, it's not okay. It took a long time to get them sort of frozen into action, but nevertheless, it's there. We all fell there together. So did all these people who gathered to create our Constitution. So, what does it say in the Constitution about impeachment? It says little things in 6 different places, but it says that the House of Representatives shall choose their officers, etc., and they shall have the sole power of impeachment. In other words, the Senate cannot bring up a bill of impeachment. They have to wait for it to come through the House of Representatives. And that's why the House of Representatives and the particular members of the House of Representatives are the people that are so important to go after. And our particular project is intended to do that. What we're trying to do is to gather up throughout all of Norm Diggs's district people who are willing to sign a petition, which we have copies of for you, and Darlene will go into all of that and how we're doing it. But the point is to put pressure, basically, on our representative and let him know a whole lot of us feel this way. Now, it's important also to recognize that this is not a partisan issue. A lot of the statements that have come out of Democratic groups, but it is not a partisan issue. And in fact, what's happened with it in the last few months, we have to wonder if the Democrats would even consider it. Nancy Pelosi, immediately on coming to power in the House of Representatives, said impeachment's off the table. In point of fact, she has no right to do that. She was not elected to do that. She has no right to tell us what to do. She has responsibilities to see that certain things happen, but not to say, no, we can't do it. And when the bill that was worked on by E4, which is the Impeach for Washington for Impeachment group, went to the legislature in Olympia, Patty Murray and Jay Inslee lobbied against passing it. Patty Murray and Jay Inslee, last I heard, were Democrats. So, as far as we're concerned, this is only for everybody, whatever political party they belong to or don't belong to have the freedom as citizens without power to say, no, no, this is not okay, we won't stand for it. It's a misunderstanding that that the trial has to take place, that the whole process has to be completed. It doesn't. Richard Nixon never went on trial. He resigned before his trial came. And part of the reason he resigned is because he didn't want to release all the documents that would have been necessary to do that. And as you'll see in this video, if we don't stand up for what we know is wrong and say, no, you cannot get away with that anymore, then the next people are going to do the same thing. Because we as people have said, we'll put up with any kind of junk you want to dish out because we're too timid to take a stand or whatever. It's entirely up to us. Are we willing to, to risk getting hanged in order to exercise our right to have a government that doesn't commit all the atrocities that this government is?
What really made me come here is that what is taking place and continues to take place, and we are talking about another whole year plus, is an incredible expansion of executive branch powers by this administration. And as they state so aptly in this program, those powers will be handed over to whoever becomes the next president, whoever that is. And it's pretty rare for any executive to say, well, thank you, but I really don't want that. So the issue for us as voters is not just about whether or not, you know, this particular policy is good or that policy is good, or if we like this individual or that individual. It is about the structure of our government and the fact that the powers of the executive branch have been so incredibly expanded. And the executive branch does not represent us. It is the legislative branch that represents us.
I think you actually have to make a choice whether you want to do impeachment or whether you want to conduct different kinds of inquiries into other things the administration has done. And I think the inquiries are more important and more, probably, will get you more than impeachment.
My feeling is that impeachment process, whether or not it is, they get 2/3, and that's always the argument, we're not going to get 2/3 in the Senate. If the impeachment process starts, number one, it's going to slow down. He vetoes everything we bring apart. They're above the law. That administration is acting as if they're above the law anyway, so investigating them seems to be a moot point. But if impeachment proceedings are actually brought and the people are rising up saying, we want this, and the House does bring it, if it does nothing more than slow down and his actions against the people, which are constant. I mean, he's vetoing, he's vetoing child health care. I mean, when it gets passed by the Senate. So, if nothing else, it's like a slap on the hand. It's slapping his hands, and it's saying to future presidents, we're going to slap your hands too.
Or
more, you know. And I think that also the energy around impeachment proceedings slows down the process of what more harm he can do. He's done so much harm in these last few years that I think it may slow down what he can even do.
And I think there's another issue that's really important, which is if we are citizens, if we have this long history of freedoms that our government gives to us, and we stand by and go to the mall and do whatever kinds of things that they think is important for us to do, and we do nothing, then in many ways it seems to me we are simply saying we don't care enough about what happens to this country and its future, regardless of George W. Bush. We're going to let anybody who's in there do anything they choose to do, because we've done nothing so far in a really so